Hello everyone, and welcome to my favorite Zelda game and one of my favorite games. Which is kind of an odd thing to be saying, because the first time that I played this game, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I did like it, but it just was kind of a disappointment to me after playing Ocarina of Time. And I was expecting this game to be very different from what it was. But after playing it a lot myself and watching other people play it, it's grown on me a lot. I feel like of all the Zelda games that have been released so far, this is both the most relaxing and the most adventurous, somehow at the same time, and that's kind of an unusual combination. And there are lots of other quirks and things that I think make it kind of amazing. And there is a wolf, which I'm sure will never come into play in the actual game. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. So let us begin. I guess new quest log. And I'll keep the default names, because usually whenever I play games like this, I keep the default names since it's authentic. I don't really try to make things too silly. Just feels like I'm supposed to do it the way the creators intended. No, I don't feel a strange sadness as dusk falls, because that's usually whenever I get to record. Not today, though. I'm recording in the middle of the day because I'm able to. Character designs in this game kind of threw me for a loop whenever I first saw them. Because most of this game has this really realistic flair to it, and then the characters are super stylized. But enough talk of sadness, Link! Nice way to shift the tone in the conversation. This sort of confuses me. He says, "You've never been to Hyrule, right?" But I feel like the whole place is Hyrule. Like, the whole general area that we live in most of the Zelda games is Hyrule. But I'm guessing it's kind of like when someone asks you if you've ever been to New York, what they mean is, have you been to New York City and not the state? So the part with the castle is Hyrule City, and the rest is just Hyrule State. This game has really humble beginnings, and that's kind of one of the things that people don't seem to like about it. There are a lot of complaints with this game, such as it beginning too slowly. That's kind of a big one. It takes too long to get to the first dungeon. And then another one is that the game is too brown. But you see that rainbow in the background? That completely invalidates your argument. The entire game is colorful because of that rainbow. Now, the game certainly isn't as colorful as other 3D Zelda games. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, all of them are brighter than this, but this game is still colorful enough, and I think the faded look almost helps it out. It wouldn't be totally fitting otherwise. There's Colin. Colin kind of gets picked on the whole game. But no one calls him Colin, so that's good. Terrible, terrible joke. And girl with overly short legs. Steals our horse. Well then, I wasn't using it anyway.
Hey!
I like how "hey" translates to, "Hey Link, you there?" This is why Zelda games can't have voice acting. It's because in Hylian everything is just grunts. Hey, where's Epona? Camera points to where Epona went. I just kind of find that funny, for whatever reason. It's just like a kid's show. Hey kids, do you know where Epona went? Very good! So let's head to where Epona went, and get to where Gordon Freeman was. We're now taking control of Link, and he has an outfit sort of reminiscent of Final Fantasy X. It just looks all patched up. And that's kind of one thing that bugged me whenever I first played the game. Not this specifically, but whenever I first played the game at around Christmas time, my sisters kept making fun of Link's clothes, saying that he was naked, but he's clearly not. So that kind of ruined part of the experience for me. Also glitchy shadows. Her legs look so short in that shot. I will stop talking about this. This is Ilia. Thank you for washing Epona in an inch of water. I'm sure that her horseshoes are very clean. I don't really know how Epona is pronounced. That's just how I pronounce it, but there are lots of pronunciations for every character in Nintendo games. Also this line, Epona is a girl too, so you have to treat her nice like one. I'm not going to play the piece of grass. That line is funny to me, because the beginning of the game just says enter horse name. It doesn't say whether the horse is a female or not. So you could just go into that without knowing that you're supposed to give the horse a girl name, and then get to that line. And so I would intentionally name the horse after, like, friends of mine and forum members who have very male names, and just see, Big Mike is a girl too, you know. This seems so unfitting. This is Ordon Village, which is the most ridiculously peaceful village in all of video gaming history. Like, most adventurous games like this start with a peaceful village, but this is like the epitome of peaceful village. Why do you need to paint the fishing rod? I want my fishing rod now. I don't need all the other fishermen to be jealous of my pimped out fishing lure. Or whatever. Yeah. This is like a very countryside setting. Borderline boring. So I can understand why people wouldn't like the beginning of this game that much, but I enjoy it. It's a little bit ridiculous, though, because the first thing that we're required to do in the game, as an actual task, is herd a bunch of goats into a barn. Like, don't you think herding goats into a barn when you think The Legend of Zelda: A Grand Adventure? 'Cause I sure do. It's just funny that they have something that is literally a chore at the very start of the game. Also love the Goat Inn! Such a weird exclamation. It's not like Combo Breaker or High Score. No, it's just Goat Inn. It's kind of awesome. Also must point out the goat's horns. They are a circle, so it's not really horns, it's just a horn. Goat, stop being ornery. This minigame is very... It reminds me of Beaver Bother from Donkey Kong 64, except this isn't nearly as bad as that. Beaver Bother is a lot more finicky. So it's a good thing that he doesn't have just a herd of beavers. I don't think that's the appropriate grouping term for beavers. Just wait a spell, bud. Hocus pocus alamagocus. And we've waited a spell. So, goat in, horse out. Done with this nonsense. And that apparently took, like, the whole day, judging from the sky. Yes, I would love to save. Because we've done so much. Ugh. Whenever they say this, the kids just... They say, "Wake up, Link, it's morning already." That implies that this is Link's bed, and this is where he slept. Because they're calling up to him, they're not... Well, he does live in a treehouse, so his house is elevated, but it seems like they're looking at the top floor of his house. And this seems like a kind of terrible place to sleep. It's the 3rd floor of a building, and there's almost no railing here, and there's no pillows or blankets or anything. It's a terrible place to sleep. I do like how you can look out that window, though. It's just a little attention to detail. You don't have to look out that window. There's never a point in which you do it ever again, or that you have to do it. But you can. They had to go to all the extra effort to code that. So I respect it. There are lots of little things in this game that make it feel lived in. Like Link's house has a picture of goats with holy beams shooting out of their horns. He also has a framed picture of a goat and his boss, because those are his only friends. He's boiling some barf for breakfast. There's corn cobs hanging on a rope. I'm not really here to question Link's inner lifestyle, I'm just admiring his house. His very messed up house. But yeah, I really do appreciate the attention to detail in this game a lot. One complaint that people have with this game is that the characters aren't very memorable, which I can kind of agree with. There are certain characters that are very, very memorable, and then others, like... Well, this is Beth, this is Tallow, and that is Mallow over there. Mallow is the greatest character. No, he's my second favorite character in this game, but he's still pretty friggin' awesome. Because he's a baby face. He's basically a baby. He's as old as a baby, he looks like a baby, but he's like an adult in the inside. And he's just hilarious. Anyway, what I was saying was, like, the characters in this game, I don't remember what this guy's name is. I've played this game so many times and I still don't know what this guy's name is. I probably knew at some point and then just forgot, because they aren't that memorable. This is Fado's house. I know what his name is because he's our boss, the one who we have to herd goats with, and his door is always locked. There is never a point in the game where his door is ever open. And I like to imagine that that's just because Nintendo forgot to make the model for the inside of his house. And so they just put that lock there as an explanation for how you can't get in, so they didn't have to model it. But I think really they just didn't feel a need to do it. Or they knew that every time you see Fado, he's working. That also seems reasonable. Right now I'm grinding for rupees because this is a riveting beginning to a game. Smashing pumpkins. And then celebratory music plays. Yeah, like I said, beginning of this game, very slow, but I don't mind it because it sets sort of a tone for the rest of the game being peaceful, and also serves as a contrast for when more intense things happen later. That sounds contradictory, but I got a blue rupee! So your argument is invalid. That is one of the great, terrible things about this game. Every time you start it up, the game forgets that you've collected a blue rupee or a yellow rupee or a red rupee, just any higher count than the green count, which is 1. So, every time you start the game, I got a yellow rupee! It just... yeah, it tells you what you already know. It's worse in the Skyward Sword, because it's not just rupees. It's a whole bunch of other stuff, and it opens up the pause menu and everything, and it takes much longer, and it's, I think, more annoying. In this game, it's just silly. So, I just conjured a bird from the sky, and I'm going to use this strong, mighty bird to get a weaker, feebler bird, and I'm going to use the weaker, feebler bird to hover across a gap, because animal cruelty. It's the best. Don't tell PETA I said that. It's a little bit disarming to me that whenever you throw the rocks, they don't break like they do in Ocarina. Unless you throw them at a person. Let us demonstrate. He didn't mind. This is Mayor Bo. He looks like a walrus. He's also Ilia's dad. It's just kind of silly